All right, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome. It is so good to have you here. Thank you. So in today's video, I'm feeling excited to come on and talk about some things that have been coming up for me, as always. And one of those things is about living a turned on life. And so I titled this video, Does Your Life Turn You On? Okay, and so the element of turn on can be so vast for different people. So we're just gonna go ahead and ramble and explore that. And so a main path that I've been finding with my clients who I've been working with is that a lot of men are seeking to feel alive. Okay, they want to feel excitement and aliveness and juiciness and all those things that you resonate with when you hear the word aliveness. And so for you right now, what does it mean to feel alive? What would you have to do? How would you have to feel? What would your life look like for you to wake up every day and feel alive? Because a lot of people are living, but they're not alive. They're living in a matrix of the zombie, day-to-day mundane activities that feel very static and very stagnant after a while. And so that happens with all aspects of our lives, including our relationships, our careers, our day-to-day dynamics that don't really fulfill us. And so for our life to really feel luscious and expansive and open and to have channels of aliveness, we need to understand what that means for us and what makes us feel that way. Because we are all different beings, and whatever it is for you is going to be completely different what it is for me. For somebody, for them to feel alive, they might need a hug every morning. For another person to feel alive, they need to jump off an airplane and go skydiving. You see, so there is a big different range of motions here. And so for me, the aspect of being turned on by life is in the realms of waking up in the morning and being excited for the day. And the feelings of turn on is not oriented with sexuality or my genitals or sexual pleasure. And so I want you to separate the two. If in your mind, turn on and feeling pleasure is automatically associated with genitals and sexuality, because it's not. They don't have to be. They can be, but they don't have to be. And so to find what does turn you on, you really have to go inside and ask yourself what makes you feel really good. And perhaps you're somebody who haven't even explored enough of life to even know what that is. Okay, so I'm going to share what makes me feel alive and what turns my life on. So perhaps some of these things can be of insight to you. And so my relationship with food is one of the things that really turns me on. Okay, being really conscious with my nutrition and what I put into my body brings a lot of internal fulfillment for me. So that means that whenever I eat something, I take a moment to think about it, to look at it, to smell it, to hopefully know what the ingredients are, what I'm eating before I put it into my body. And so when I'm eating something really delicious, example, in the mornings, I love to make a superfood coffee. And my superfood coffee involves coffee beans. I have ashwagandha powder, maca powder, collagen. I add 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. And then I have this really delicious vanilla silks almond creamer. And so I put all that in my NutriBullet and I blend it, and then it comes out with foam and a super awesome texture. And so when I drink that coffee and I can tune into how it moves down my throat and how it lands into my stomach and the warmness that it creates in my belly, it's just this yummy, turned on feeling of how good it is. And so my morning coffee has become my morning ritual. As I sit there drinking my coffee, sometimes I'll make an avocado toast or a bagel with cream cheese. And basically point is I get up in the mornings excited to have my morning coffee, because that's what turns me on. It's the first thing, okay? Sometimes if I want to get weird, I use a tongue scraper, it's like a steel little bar and can scrape tongue. and brushing my teeth. Sometimes if I'm feeling extra special that morning, I will actually get turned on by like scraping my tongue, especially when I bring the tongue scraper like further back into my tongue where like my gag reflexes kick in. But without going too deep, literally just like the feeling of scraping off all night long germs off my tongue mentally turns me on, and also the sensation physically turns me on, okay? And so some of this might sound really weird to you because you're like, what the fuck? Like you get turned on by brushing your teeth. But what I'm getting to here is like intentionality of the little mundane things that we do. Because your turn on does not have to be like this massive sexual experience or like your nipples getting hard or your cock getting hard. Like it does not have to be like that. For me, a lot of turn on, and actually for a lot of women, the turn on happens mentally. It happens mentally way before physically, okay? So if you're a man listening to this, like this is something that you can take as your notes, your tool for the day, is that women get turned on mentally before they get turned on physically. And then if you want to talk about the emotional and the feeling aspect, that's like a whole another avenue. And so, yeah, I wake up in the mornings, like I get turned on by like the first 3 things that I do in the morning. And so the rest of my day just kind of unfolds. And some days, like I wake up feeling like shit. On Sunday, I literally felt really crappy. I felt depressed. I felt lonely. I wrote like a whole loneliness poem that I'm probably gonna like post in a week. And so that day I was like in my super low. And in that day, nothing was turning me on. Everything was pissing me off, you guys. Like it was pissing me off, just life, little things. And so not every day is gonna be this way, but if you have certain practices that you put into your daily life, you can help yourself feel better. And so right now I'm speaking into the aspect of like feeling depression and feeling isolation and feeling loneliness, because those feelings are inevitable, and we are living in society where a lot of that is very present for a lot of people. So introducing things into your daily routine, your little practices, your little devotions to self-love will help you bring the alignment back to your joy, peace, and bliss, okay? And so outside the coffee and the brushing the teeth, some of the other things that I do, so what really turns me on is, well, one of the things like coming on live and like talking to you guys here, like I get really excited in my body. Like sometimes I'll have a topic, like today's topic, it was coming through. It's like I need to go live on and like talk about things that turn me on, because for me, it's the foundation of my life. And like one of the principles for me is like living in bliss. I am devoted to my bliss, to my joy, pleasure, play, and bliss. But do you know what that is if you don't really know who you are, right? And so other things that bring me bliss throughout the day is stretching. I like freaking love getting in my body, especially in my shoulders. Like I have a whole series of stretching exercises that I do against the wall or like on my couch, or I have a yoga wheel. And so when I'm not feeling my highest and greatest self, I will move into stretching and open up my body and like open up my heart. And so like connecting into the body also makes me feel good. It sometimes turns me on. I talked about orgasmic stretching in some of my videos, maybe not on here, but on my OnlyFans. But there is a point where you can soften your body enough to actually move into a stretch that feels tense and uncomfortable beyond the point of discomfort into point of pleasure. And so like literally experiencing orgasmic sensations from stretching your body, like in my shoulders, we can go like very deep. And so that's another way that my life turns me on, is when I stretch. And so what else? I get really turned on by having intelligent conversations that push my edges. And so a lot of people like to, talk about topics that they know about or they feel familiar with or they have comfortable education on. But I personally turn into the point of innocent curiosity. And when you're in a state of like just being curious what's going on, you can really go deeper into conversations that you're not too familiar about and figure out like what's there for you. Like if somebody's talking about something that you're not too familiar with, ask questions. Like this is why I love like being a good coach because I know how to ask the right questions. And so when you're having a conversation with somebody that you don't know much about, instead of like trying to switch the conversation or add in information that doesn't make sense, get curious and instead ask the person, like, tell me more about that. Like, what does that look like? So yeah, I get turned on by intelligent, emotionally deep conversations that actually have meaning. You know, I don't really care to talk about the weather or, you know, just the mundane stuff. Like, what did you have for breakfast? Like, yeah, sure, my orgasmic coffee is great, but like, I rather know, like, what are you suffering and like, what is challenging you right now in your life? And so continuing on with like, what is turn you on? How connected are you to your body? Okay, because if your body is toxic, full of crap and waste and I don't know, burgers from last week and stuff that you have never detoxed or eliminated, like you're gonna have a harder time accessing pleasure and turn on. And then thinking of pleasure and turn on being beyond your genitals. And then so going back to the chakra system, right? And so the root and the second sacral chakra is like where the genital turn on gets stimulated. But as you begin to awaken and like evolve as an ascended human being, your turn on is gonna come from different parts of your body. So now, like if you've done the work and you've cleansed your body and your channels are open, your pleasure will rise into different parts of your body. And like literally you can begin to communicate, commune with people and begin to feel them at different levels. So like, for example, I recently had an experience where I felt so much energy, so much potency and like turned on like power that was all heart based. It was all right here. Like it had nothing to do with my genitals or the person's genitals. It was just like right here, the neck and the heart. This is where we were at. And so the entire interaction with this individual was so sensual and so intimate. It had nothing to do with our genitals. We were literally like hugging heart to heart, having like deep, powerful eye gazes and like just having really vulnerable and authentic conversations. And like there was many hours that this was happening and the entire time I was activated and turned on. And when this person left, I literally had to like cut off the energetic connection because like the heart felt like, oh my God, like I just felt all this love and energy and like it's no longer here. So part of the work that I do is like learning actually how to separate the tension. Because what happens in some practices, and this is like a whole separate episode, is that clients go see tantrikas or tantric facilitators, dakinis, dakas, it's all the same terminology, and they get like addicted to the individual. They get so infatuated with the individual that they think that they're in love with them. When in reality, no, you're not in love. You just didn't unhook, or the practitioner didn't unhook their energy from you. And so I'm going on a different rant, but probably important is like learning with whom you share your energy and with whom you leave it, and actually being intentional to not leave your energy with anyone. Pull it back. And how do you do that? With intention. Like stop thinking about that person, because every time you think about that person, especially if you're putting in intrusive sexual thoughts into your mental field, that translates into their field. You're attaching, you're like a lurch, you're lurching onto their energetic field. And like, it's no joke, you guys, like being in a position where I'm at and like sharing as much explicit content and sensual photography as I do, like some of y'all are masturbating to me and I can feel it. Like it's an energy that's felt. And so like last year, that's when I started like really like understanding what that is, because sometimes I would literally just feel like a sexual urge that would generate in my genitals that would like move through my body, and then like an image of a person would pop into my head. And so this is how I began like discerning how sexual vampirism occurs. Like it feels good to transcend lower genital based interactions to like bringing it into the heart and actually like being authentic and being vulnerable and like sharing about like, what are you struggling with right now? Like, what are you afraid of? Like, I want to know this shit. You know, if you're just going to tell me all the fancy things that you're doing and how successful you are and all that ego blabber, like that's cool, I can hear it, but that doesn't help me connect to your essence and to your soul. Okay? Vulnerability is how we get to connect deeper. Okay? So So yeah, living a life that turns you on. Before you can do that, you need to know what it is that turns you on. What makes you feel good in your body, in your mind, in your heart? What makes your soul feel good? What kind of experiences make your soul feel good? And for most people, they don't know because they haven't had a chance to explore. Because most of the society is in this hustle and grind matrix life where they're moving through the mundane tasks, not really asking themselves like, who am I? Why am I here? What makes me feel good? And what do I want to do with my life? And so my invitation to you guys is to continue your journey of awakening and getting to know yourself, getting to know who you are, what makes you feel good, and why you are here. Okay? Like, one of my core foundations of life is like being in my purpose and in my pleasure. Like, my pleasure guides my life. And like, some people listening might start like hating on this, but like, the truth is like, I am devoted to living in joy, bliss, peace, abundance, and adventures. Like, that's what I'm devoted to. If you're devoted to like 40 plus hours a week, maybe 2-3 times gym a week, family time, like that's what you're devoted to, then that's what you have. So if you begin to change your mindset and actually get intentional with things that you want to devote to, your life will begin shifting that. Because remember, the universe is always paying attention and listening. It's just a matter of you putting out the right requests. Okay? So play around with it. But remember, manifestations need to come from your heart. They can also come from your ego, but they will never fill your soul's like essence when it's from your ego. Like, it'll fill your mind and your ego self for a while, but after some time, you're still gonna feel empty. And this is why I'm teaching like the 3 lower chakras, the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, money, sex, and power. Once you accomplish money, sex, and power in your life, like, there's only so much you can do before it gets boring and before like dark energies of control, manipulation, and greed takes over. And then this is how we have individuals like kidnapping children and drinking their blood because it's fun, because it's toxic as hell. They got so fucking bored with their money, they don't know what to do with it. And so the more people that awaken and step into their power and like step into abundance, like, we can actually spread and funnel that abundance down to all the other places in our world where we need. But that's like a whole another conversation. And so, yeah, this feels good. My little rant today, does your life turn you on? And so I'm curious to hear, like, does your life turn you on? And like, what are you doing about it?